Alright, hello and welcome dear students. As you can see on your screens, today we'll be discussing tough enough questions for CAT in the topic reading comprehension. Now the main purpose of this exercise is to make you aware of the kind of questions that you may find tough in the exam. And the toughness of this question is not based on the language alone, but also based on the confusion of the options that often occurs, or maybe lack of vocabulary, or maybe lack of interest in the topic, right? So I myself have compiled these questions, have created these questions for you, so that right now only you face the tough enough questions, and that way in exam you will not be afraid and you will be aware of your strengths and weaknesses. Alright, so we have our first passage before us, so we'll go ahead and start with this passage. The notion that technological advancement inevitably leads to human progress is both seductive and misleading. While innovation has undeniably elevated living standards and expanded access to information, it has also deepened disparities and eroded essential human capacities. The convenience of automation, for instance, has fostered dependency rather than empowerment. Tasks that once demanded patience, skill and sustained attention have been reduced to mere clicks, subtly diminishing our cognitive endurance. So the first paragraph, the notion that technological advancement inevitably leads to human progress is both seductive and misleading. That means we are connecting technological advancement with human progress, and this idea is seductive. That means it is alluring, you want to go towards that, and also misleading because somehow it is doing us some harm as well, right? Inevitably means unavoidable, unavoidably. And this whole paragraph is drawing comparison. Again, convenience of automation has fostered dependency rather than empowerment. This is an example of the first line of the paragraph. From the first paragraph itself, you can see that the main idea is being established. Moreover, technology's promise of connection often masks a paradoxical alienation. Digital communication allows instant access to anyone, anywhere, yet the quality of that connection is often superficial. The abundance of information has not translated into greater wisdom, but rather into an overabundance of noise. We scroll endlessly, confusing engagement with understanding and visibility with value. The result is a culture of distraction where the ability to reflect, question or even tolerate silence is at a risk of extinction. Now this paragraph is further elaborating on the concept that even though we have all the technology in today's times, it hasn't really helped us much. Okay, it draws a lot of parallels. In the first line itself, it is talking about a paradoxical alienation. These are two different words. Okay, now these are two different words. Paradox means contrasting ideas. Contrasting ideas in same sentence. Right? Alienation means the separation of one person from the rest of the humanity. Right? So they are talking about paradox. So they have compared it in every sentence that digital communication allows instant access, but at the same time the quality is superficial. Right? Abundance of information is there, but there is no greater wisdom. Instead, there is noise. Similarly, you scroll endlessly. You think it is engagement, but it is actually though you think scrolling is understanding of concept, but it is nothing but engagement through online posts or technology or content, right? So this paragraph is elaborating on how paradoxical technology can be. Okay, let's go ahead and see the next paragraph. What is perhaps most concerning is the quiet moral shift this engenders. Efficiency and speed, once tools for achieving meaningful ends, have become ends in themselves. Efficiency and speed, once tool for achieving meaningful ends, have become ends in themselves. This statement, what this statement is signifying is that meaningful ends means basically your destination, that efficiency and speed were created so that it was easier for you to go from one point to another, but they have become ends in themselves. That means they have become the end of your imagination or whatever connection that was supposed to be there. Ethical deliberation and empathy, which require slowness and contemplation, are increasingly perceived as impediments. Now what this is saying, that ethical deliberation basically means stopping and thinking about the ethics or morals behind something, and other qualities such as empathy, they were required to slow down and think over. They were required to slow down. Slowness and contemplation are actually perceived, now they are seen as impediments. Impediments means stoppage. Okay. The machine has not merely amplified human ability, it has redefined what it means to be human, valuing precision over perspective and output over insight. Thus, while technology continues to shape the architecture of our world, it also subtly reshapes the architecture of our minds. The challenge is not to resist innovation, but to reclaim intentionality, to ensure that progress remains a human endeavor. To ensure that progress remains a human endeavor rather than a mechanical one. Basically, they are saying that yes, we must use technology and we must go ahead in the field of technology, but the challenge is to remain human all along and not reduce ourselves to just online creatures who are using that technology. Alright, so this was our paragraph. Now we'll go ahead and check on the questions. Alright, question number 1. The author's central concern is that technological advancement has. Now, we are talking about the central concern. See, it is not only saying concern but central concern. Now, what happens is you will find a lot of confusing options in these questions. Central concern is often the main idea. Okay, the author has put forward a lot of misconceptions or his inhibitions, and we have to see which one is the main. Fail to improve human living standards. According to the paragraph, do you think if the technology has failed to improve human standards? No, it is saying that everything is available at single click, so we will not take this option. Made life more convenient but less meaningful. Yes, the whole second paragraph is talking about how everything is within the reach of our hands, but at the same time it is less meaningful, everything is losing its meaning. So we will consider this one. Reduced economic inequality. Nowhere in the paragraph anything about economic equality has been talked about, so we will disregard this option. Encouraged greater social awareness. Actually, the reverse of this happening, because it is not encouraging, it is discouraging greater social awareness. So B would be the right answer. Understood? Now let's move on to the next question. The phrase efficiency and speed have become ends in themselves. I made you highlight the phrase, right? Efficiency and speed, once tools for achieving meaningful ends, have become ends in themselves. It is saying that they used to be destination once. They used to be the help for destination, right? We used to use these to reach our destination, but now they themselves have become our destination, our ends, right? They are the end goal now. Everybody just wants efficiency and speed, but nobody wants to do any kind of work for that. So let's see what the question is demanding. People value quick results over thoughtful action. Yes, this might be a meaning. Modern life has become more disciplined. Nothing has been said about discipline here. Technology has eliminated inefficiency completely. Again, it is saying has eliminated completely. Nobody or nothing can eliminate inefficiency completely. It is an extreme kind of statement. So we'll reject this one. Human goals are now clearer than before. Nothing about human goals or them being clear has been said. So I will not take this option either. And A will be the right answer. Got it? Which of the following best captures the author's tone? Now we are talking about tone. See, often students get confused for the tone kind of questions because they don't know the meaning of each tone. Okay, and in this options, in this question, the options are also very confusing and divisive. Celebratory yet cautious. Like celebratory is a positive tone and cautious is sort of a negative tone, but they are mentioned together in the option. Analytical and mildly critical. Analytical and mildly critical. See, analytical tone is just talking about positives and negatives, right? And mildly critical is just talking about negatives without solution, right? Neutral and descriptive. I think you know the meaning of neutral tone and descriptive tone. And sarcastic and dismissive. Sarcastic, you know that whenever you make fun and you use strong words for sarcastic tones, and for dismissive means you do not accept whatever that is present before you. If you'll go through the paragraph again, you will feel that the tone here is analytical. It is talking about how technology is helping us, but at the same time it is creating a divide among the humans and humane aspects, right? So not only the tone is analytical, but it is also criticizing that nature of technology. So option B would be the right answer. Okay. The author's use of connection and alienation highlights. Now we will have to go back to the paragraph and see what exactly these words were used for. I think I made you highlight. Yes. The technology's promise of connection often masks a paradoxical alienation. Okay. The author's use of connection and alienation highlights these kind of questions where the words or sentences are quoted. These are the inference kind questions. Inferential. Here it not only judges your general understanding of the RC, but also judges how you are interpreting or inferencing the paragraph. Okay. The psychological benefits of social media. The paragraph is not talking about benefits of social media anywhere. The paradox of digital relationships. Yes, I explained the meaning of word paradox, and that is what exactly had been shown in that paragraph. The decline of technological innovation. No, in fact, it is the progress of technological innovation, because in the whole paragraph it is saying that as we progress, we are losing touch with our original roots. The rise of virtual empathy. No, the paragraph is actually about the decline of virtual empathy. So lastly, option number B is the best answer. Got it? Alright, let's go ahead. According to the passage, the challenge the author refers to. Something about a challenge has been mentioned. Let's see where it was. Yes, the challenge is not to resist innovation, but to reclaim intentionality, to ensure that progress remains a human endeavor rather than mechanical one. I explained this to you, that progress should again look like a humane aspect of us and not a mechanical aspect. Reject all forms of modern technology? No. Just now the author said that we should not reject innovation. Achieve total dependence on machines? No. Again, it is an extreme statement. Balance innovation with human values. Exactly what had been said in that statement. Replace emotional thinking with rationality. No. We have to maintain our human aspects. C would be your answer. Alright, let's go ahead and see the next passage. The Indian national movement was not a single uniform struggle but a tapestry of differing visions and methods. While the early nationalists believed in constitutional reforms and persuasion, the later radicals emphasized direct action and mass participation. Yet both were united by a common belief that British rule had eroded India's capacity for self-determination. Early nationalists believe in constitutional reforms and later radicals emphasize direct action. The first paragraph is setting the base for Indian national movement. It is also drawing a distinction between the radicals and the nationalists. Okay, early nationalists and later radicals. It is also highlighting the chronological appearance of these two ideologies. Alright, all this I could take in with just a 4-line first paragraph. The emergence of Mahatma Gandhi added a new dimension altogether. Now, the tone is shifting. Okay, the first paragraph told that there was only two ideologies, but now the tone is shifting. It is saying added a new dimension altogether. His approach combined moral strength with political strategy. This is the approach described. He appealed not only to intellect but also to conscience, transforming politics into a form of ethical engagement. However, Gandhi's emphasis on non-violence and rural self-reliance was not universally accepted. Leaders like Subhash Chandra Bose believed that moral resistance without physical force could not drive a deeply entrenched colonial power. In this paragraph, the light was shown on Gandhi's ideology, but at the same time it was shown that it was not universally accepted. Interestingly, despite their ideological differences, the various streams of nationalism were not entirely opposed. Each in its own way contributed to awakening a sense of unity and purpose among Indians. The success of the freedom struggle, therefore, lay not merely in one ideology trumping over another, but in their collective ability to inspire millions to imagine India as a single nation. See, this line summarizes the entire paragraph very well because it is saying that even though there were many different ideologies, none of those were openly opposed, and they, instead of working in all other directions, they worked in one direction as like one ideology, and they collectively made Indians inspired to have an image of independent India. Right? Now let's see what the questions say. Alright, which of the following best describes the author's main argument? Clearly, it is the main idea of the paragraph. The freedom struggle succeeded because of Gandhi's leadership. No, at many places in the paragraph, Gandhi's leadership was not accepted, was mentioned. So, of course not, the entire credit cannot be given to that. The national movement was divided and hence ineffective. The efficiency or inefficiency of the national movement has not been quoted anywhere. Alright, see why I have included this paragraph, because in these kind of paragraph you have to take your biases away. Okay, a lot of us have studied extensively about Indian national movement, and you may think that some of these options are right, but if you would look at the paragraph and you would look at the context, then only you can get the right answer, and not just by owing to your original knowledge. So in these kind of paragraphs, just put everything you've learned aside about Indian history or anything. Don't get too emotional and just solve rationally. So yes, it is not talking about efficiency or inefficiency of the movement. Different ideologies together contributed to India's independence. Yes, this is exactly what the last line was saying. The radicals were more practical than the moderates. Nothing about this has been said in the paragraph. They just were used to introduce the ideologies present. So option number C would be your answer. Alright, let's go. Let's solve another. The phrase transforming politics into a form of ethical engagement suggests that Gandhi transforming politics into a form of ethical engagement made morality the center of political action. Yes, we might consider, since he was linking the two. Rejected all form of politics. Rejected all. This is an extreme statement, and you know in RC we do not opt for extreme statements, no matter how much relevant they appear. So we will not take this one. Encourage people to use religion as a political tool. Again, he was talking about ethics and morals and not religion, so we'll reject this option. Believed in violent revolution through moral conviction. Here in the paragraph it has been mentioned Gandhi's emphasis on non-violence and rural self-reliance. This has been mentioned, so obviously he did not believe in violent activities. So this will also be a wrong answer, and your correct answer would be option number A. Alright, I hope it's clear. Okay, let's see the next question now. What can be inferred about the author's view of ideological difference within the movement? Okay, now वही चीज़ है कि don't put your brain into this. You don't have to think what you know. You just have to infer what author's view is. Okay, they weakened the national cause. Did he mention it somewhere? No, he did not mention that they weakened. They were harmful but unavoidable. Them being harmful, the ideological differences being harmful has not been mentioned. They reflected confusion among the leaders. Confusion has not been mentioned. They strengthened the collective struggle. Collective struggle has been mentioned. So D is your answer. In these four options, what I am trying to demonstrate is that you have to remember the keywords. The keywords that you came across. If you have not seen any of these keywords in the paragraph, that means that is wrong and that option will not work. Alright, let's go ahead. The author's attitude towards Gandhi's critics like Bose is best described as dismissive, balanced, admiring, hostile. Alright, we'll just go back and check what the author said about his critics. However, Gandhi's emphasis on non-violence and rural self-reliance was not universally accepted. Leaders like Subhash Chandra Bose believed that moral resistance without physical force could not drive out a deeply entrenched power. Right? He has only mentioned what Subhash Chandra Bose believed in. So, of course, the tone is not dismissive since he did not make any comment about his ideology. Right? He did not admire Bose either. He did not talk anything about either. Plus, he does not say anything bad about Bose either. So, tone will be balanced. He just mentioned that Bose wasn't very much on board with the ideology. Alright. According to the passage, which of the following is not true? In these kind of questions, just keep this in mind. Okay? Out of these four, one of the statements is false. Early nationalists relied on persuasion. Yes, it talked about nationalists believing in political persuasion. We'll just quickly check. Believed in constitutional reforms and persuasion, right? Gandhi's methods were accepted by all. No. This is right. This is not right. Okay. False. The radicals promoted direct action. Yes, it has been mentioned in the first paragraph only, right? Unity emerged despite ideological differences. Exactly. So, this statement would be the answer because this is false according to our passage. Alright, we come to passage number 3. Alright, let's go through this passage. The Mughal, instead of this one, we'll go through another passage. I just wanted to show you a history paragraph so that you can know what descriptive paragraphs look like. But there is also one philosophy paragraph because philosophy paragraph often scares the students since we are very much, we are not very much connected with philosophy. I have taken one on Greek philosophers. Let's go through this paragraph first. Greek philosophy, often portrayed as the cradle of rational inquiry, was less a celebration of certainty than a confrontation with ambiguity. Greek philosophy, often portrayed as cradle of rational inquiry, The Greek philosophy is known all over the world for their questions. The entire philosophy was based on people asking questions and then finding answers for it. Was less of a celebration of certainty. That means it was not a celebration of the fixed things in the world. Okay, it was not talking about why this thing is happening, why we are having this thing. They were actually talking about what is missing or something that they cannot make sense of, right? Ambiguity. Ambiguity means confusion. Socrates' relentless questioning, far from offering conclusions, dismantled the illusion of knowledge. Socrates, he is a philosopher. He wasn't offering any solutions. Okay, he just kept on questioning everything and triggering the thoughts among his students that why are we like having the world the way it is. His method implied that wisdom begins not with possession but with recognition of ignorance. Wisdom begins not with possession. That means you need not know all the answers, but you should know that what answers are missing from you. Recognition of ignorance. Plato, inheriting this dialectic, sought to anchor truth in transcendent forms, eternal realities beyond sensory flux. Dialectic means the approach that Socrates was using, sought to anchor truth in transcendent forms. Transcendent matlab something beyond this world. Okay? External realities beyond sensory reflux. Yet in doing so, he risked detaching thought from lived experience. That means he got himself detached from living experience, from lived experience. That means that his philosophy kind of became abstract for common people. Aristotle's corrective move, grounding knowledge in observation and classification, reintroduced the empirical world but at the cost of Plato's moral idealism. Now what happens? After Plato came Aristotle, and in his corrective move, they are saying that during Plato's time, reality and thoughts were very much detached. But what Aristotle did, he grounded knowledge in observation and classification, right? So he mixed knowledge and reality again, reintroduced the empirical. Empirical matlab material world. Material world, he reintroduced the material world, but at the same time, he dismissed the Plato's moral idealism. Nobody was talking about idealism at this point. Thus, the lineage from Socrates to Aristotle reflects not a seamless evolution, but a dialogue of tensions between abstraction and experience, morality and logic, ideal and real. The Greeks did not resolve this tension, they institutionalized it. Their true legacy lay in valuing inquiry over conclusion, framing philosophy not as a doctrine to be inherited, but as a discipline of doubt. Basically what happens, Socrates was the teacher to Plato, and Plato was the teacher to Aristotle. Alright, so this conclusive paragraph is trying to say that it is not a seamless evolution, right? There was a lot of ups and downs in their philosophies, but lastly this line, their true legacy lay in valuing inquiry over conclusion, framing philosophy not as a doctrine to be inherited, but as a discipline of doubt. That means they are saying कि they अभी भी वो conclusion पे आए नहीं हैं. They have institutionalized it, that the students do not inherit the conclusion. ऐसा नहीं है कि उनको बता दिए गए हैं conclusions and they have to just learn them, but they are actually promoting the doubt thing, that students should doubt and ask questions, and that is Greek philosophy for you. Alright, let's see the questions that follow. The author suggests that Socratic inquiry was valuable because it established universal truths through reason, revealed knowledge as fundamentally unattainable, encouraged humility through questioning, rejected philosophy in favor of religion. Now these are 4 options before you and they may look confusing and similar. So what I am going to do is, again I am doing the keyword method, that if this particular idea was present in the passage or not. Alright. Establish universal truths through reason. He was asking a lot of questions, yes, but was he establishing universal truths? No. Rejected philosophy in favor of religion. No, nothing about religion has been mentioned. The entire paragraph is only about Greek philosophy. Revealed knowledge as fundamentally unattainable. Fundamentally unattainable means nobody cannot reach at real knowledge. This, no, Aristotle, Socratic did not do this. Encouraged humility through questioning. Now, in the beginning, you read that Socrates was all about asking questions. Socrates is relentless questioning. Relentless questioning. He was all about asking questions. So, C would be your answer. Okay. The phrase, the Greeks did not resolve this tension, they institutionalized it, implies that, okay, now they have used a phrase, that means they are asking for your inference. Okay. Greek thinkers ignored philosophical contradiction. Did they ignore philosophical contradiction? No, they actually institutionalized it. They did not resolve it, institutionalize, that means fixed it for later. Fixed it. They accepted questioning as central philosophy. Yes, they accepted questioning as central philosophy. Okay, we can consider this. They aim to create absolute harmony between ideas. No, the statement says did not resolve this tension. That means there was no harmony. Philosophy was replaced by political debate. No political debate has been mentioned here, right? So this is also wrong. We are left with option number B as your answer. Okay. Now we are talking about Plato's philosophy. The passage presents Plato's philosophy as a mystical rejection of experience, a bridge between logic and religion, an attempt to stabilize truth through idealism, a denial of Socratic doubt. Again, you have 4 options that seem very similar and confusing, which often happens for philosophy passage. That's why I have taken this one. Alright. Mystical rejection of experience. If you go back to Plato's paragraph, Plato, inheriting this dialectic, sought to anchor truth in transcendental form, external realities beyond sensory flux. Yet in doing so, he risked detaching thought from lived experience. Alright. Did the word rejection of experience occur anywhere? Mystical rejection? He risked it. Like, he was like, okay, fine, even if rejection from the living world happens, I will stick to my truth. He risked it, but he did not actually make a philosophy about it. A bridge between logic and religion. Nowhere we could see religion here, so we will disregard this one. An attempt to stabilize truth through idealism. See, at the cost of Plato's moral idealism. The paragraph is indeed talking about Plato's idealism. So, in this option, a denial of Socratic doubt. No, he did not deny, he actually inherited Socrates' philosophy. So, we are left with option number C as our answer. Okay. What is implied about Aristotle's contribution? Basically asking about what Aristotle contributed. He valued empirical knowledge over moral principles. He restored Plato's faith in universal ideas. No, at the cost of Plato's idealism. So we will disregard this one. He abandoned logic for mysticism. No, he did not abandon anything. He dismissed observation as unreliable. Nowhere is it mentioned that he was based on observation. He was actually trying to link that Plato's ideas and also the material world. So he valued empirical knowledge over moral principles would be the most appropriate answer. See, in these kind of questions, you may feel that there is no answer present, all the options are very confusing, or no option feels right. But again, your main objective should be finding the most appropriate answer. Okay? The author's tone can be best described as, again we have a tone wala question, laudatory and celebratory. Laudatory means admiring. So was the author admiring? Analytical and reflective. Okay. Cynical and dismissive. Simplistic and descriptive. Cynical means unbelieving or unbelieving tone, right? You do not believe on anything, so you are cynical. So was the author cynical? No. Simplistic and descriptive. Yes, might be. Analytical and reflective, might be. Laudatory and celebratory, no. It did not feel like a positive paragraph, so the tone wasn't very positive. It felt very neutral actually. So not this one. Now, was the tone analytical? Was it telling about positives and negatives? Yes, it's talking about positive and negatives of each philosopher. Simplistic and descriptive. See, simplistic and descriptive is without any emotions, okay? It is very neutral. It is just talking about facts. But at the same time, the author has related all three philosophers together. So we will say this is analytical and reflective. Tone wale questions can be extremely confusing. So I would suggest to go through all the tones and just get a fair idea and the difference. Because in a question like this, you need to know the difference between all the tones in order to mark the right answer. Alright. Now we can go back to that paragraph that we skipped. Let's go. Let's see passage number 4. The Sangam era, often romanticized as a golden age of Tamil polity and culture, resists such simplistic classifications. Its literature, while celebrating martial valor and poetic refinement, simultaneously exposes the fissures within its social fabric. The Sangam corpus reveals a society acutely aware of hierarchy, valorizing kingship and lineage while marginalizing labor and servitude. Yet it also embodies a peculiar pluralism. Bards, traders, warriors and cultivators coexisted within an intricate web of mutual dependence that defied rigid stratification. See, this is the first paragraph and it is setting the premise like all first paragraphs do, but you have to highlight the important terms and comparisons made. संगम era often romanticized. Romanticize का मतलब ये होता है कि highlighting positives, often far from reality. Okay. It is said as the golden age of Tamil polity and culture, but in reality it resists such simplistic clarification. Basically in reality they are saying that they do not, this Sangam era is not that simple. Okay, in reality it has been very complex. Its literature, while celebrating martial valor, valor means bravery, and poetic refinement, simultaneously exposes the fissures, fissures means gaps, within its social fabric. The Sangam corpus, corpus is again collection of literature, reveals a society acutely aware of hierarchy. मतलब उनके यहाँ बहुत hierarchy थी and they were very aware. But at the same time, there was a web of mutual dependence that defined rigid stratification. Stratification means they were different levels, different stratas of society, but this mutual dependence defied that stratification. This paradox between hierarchy and interdependence lay at the heart of the Sangam world. The ethical ideal of Aram, virtue, recurrent in Sangam poetry, did not merely denote personal morality but a socio-political equilibrium. This is the meaning of this Aram. Sustained through reciprocity rather than coercion. Governance was portrayed less as an assertion of authority than as a delicate balancing of competing claims of the king, the bard and the community. However, this equilibrium was neither egalitarian nor stable. This equilibrium was neither, जो ये बैलेंस बन रहा है किंग में, बार्ड मतलब जो सिंगर्स होते हैं, ठीक है, किंग के कोर्ट में, एंड जो कम्युनिटी है उसका जो बैलेंस है, इट वॉज नॉट एग्लिटेरियन. एग्लिटेरियन मीन्स रन बाय वन पर्सन, run by one person or organization, right? Neither was it stable. The literary glorification of martial heroism and patronage obscured the systematic exclusions underlying it. That means systematic exclusions means the exceptions that were there, they were hidden by what? The glorification. Glorification मतलब तारीफें करना, बिल्कुल far from reality. The same poems that praised generosity also naturalized dependence. The same verses that celebrated love and war seldom questioned the asymmetries sustaining them. Thus, the Sangam age's sophistication lay not in transcending inequality, but in rendering it culturally intelligible. A civilization that aestheticized its contradictions rather than resolving them. See, the last couple of lines are extremely important for this paragraph. Sangam age's sophistication lay not in transcending inequalities. Basically वो ये बोल रहे हैं कि through their poetry ऐसा लग सकता है कि वो inequality की बात कर रहे हैं और बता रहे हैं कि unity and equality है, but they just made it culturally intelligible. Intelligible मतलब intelligible means readable. You can read it and understand it. उन्होंने बस mention करा है उसको, glorify करके, बहुत अच्छे तारीफ करके, उन्होंने ये सिर्फ बताया नहीं है ये चीज़. A civilization that aestheticized its contradiction. जो उनके problems थे उन्होंने उसको aesthetic बना दिया, उसको beautiful बना दिया, ठीक है, rather than resolving them. Solve नहीं करा है अपने issues को उन्होंने, बस उसको poetry में डाल के romanticize करके beautiful बना दिया है, ठीक है. Alright. See, ये पैराग्राफ इसलिए डाला गया है क्योंकि संगम लिटरेचर पे जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल है वो बहुत ही कल्चरल और हिस्टोरिकल पर्सपेक्टिव से लिखी गई है. बट दिस पैराग्राफ इज डिस्कसिंग दैट संगम लिटरेचर इज नॉट जस्ट अ ब्यूटीफुल लिटरेचर, but it also highlights how the Sangam society was different and how the literature is different whenever we are talking or reading about admiring based literature. Okay, let's see the questions. The author's central argument is that the Sangam era, central argument or the main idea, was a genuinely egalitarian society built on mutual respect. No, it was very clear that they were not egalitarian. Balanced inequality through cultural negotiation rather than reform. Yes, rather than resolving them, they have aestheticized their problems. Eliminated hierarchy through the pursuit of Aram. No, in this paragraph with Aram, it is not talking about elimination of any kind of hierarchy. So, we will not take this option. Failed to produce meaningful literature on governance. May or may not be true. This statement may or may not be true, but it is out of the scope of our passage. Our scope of passage is only talking about the discrepancies and inequalities. So lastly, we are left with option number B, and this is your answer. Okay. The phrase a civilization that aestheticized its contradiction rather than resolving them. इसीलिए highlight करवाया था because this will come as a question. Most nearly implies that the Sangam society was hypocritical in its ideals. Art and poetry masked the social tensions of the age. Poets used contradiction as a literary device. The society celebrated moral unity despite conflict. If you will look at, yes, they were not transcending inequality, they were not celebrating unity. So, we will not take this. Neither is it talking about any literary device or poets using it. Art and poetry masked, yes, aestheticized its contradiction. उसने change कर दिया contradiction को into beautiful parts or aesthetic parts. तो उसने छुपा दिया tensions को. The Sangam society was hypocritical in ideals. हो सकते हैं, but this particular line is talking about उसके problems, ना कि ideals के बारे में. So B is your right answer. 4 of these are very confusing, but again you have to see that the question is saying most nearly implies. So you have to choose the one very close to the sentence mentioned in the question. The author's tone in the passage can be best described as. Now we have a few more tones mentioned. We will see each of these tones one by one and then decide on the answers. The reason why this question is here so that I can explain all these tones to you. First option number A is reverential and nostalgical. See, rever means remember something respectfully. Okay, you always remember it out of respect. And nostalgia, though you know that you are missing something or thinking of something in the past. Fine. Ironic and deconstructive. Now, irony is what? When one aspect is mentioned, like जैसे inequality mentioned है, and ये भी mentioned है that it is present in their literature, but then उसके बाद भी उसको लेके कुछ solution नहीं आया. That is the ironic nature of the Sangam society. Deconstructive मतलब एक उसका dissecting every point. Right? Deconstructive is dissecting or studying every aspect. Romantic and emotional. Romantic and emotional, में romantic explain किया कि it is often far from reality and you just have to think, you think of everything very emotionally and not rationally. Objective yet idealistic. Romantic का ये opposite objective हो सकता है एक तरह से that you are not connecting any emotions to it, you are just seeing everything very logically. So now if you go through, the tone is not reverential because it is only remembering about the Sangam area but not respectfully. It is not saying that it was the best, it is highlighting the issues. Ironic and deconstructive, yes, because I have already given you the example how it is ironic because they keep on mentioning and they keep on writing poems about their various elements of the society, but they did not do anything to help those elements. It is not objective or idealistic. It is not telling that how Sangam society should have been. It is just saying that how they were. Romantic and emotional, yes, it may have started at romantic, but at the same time it told you to stop. Right? Often romanticize, but reality resists such simplistic classifications. In the first line itself, it said that do not romanticize this. So B is your answer. Okay, let's see now question number 4. What does the passage suggest about Aram as an ethical ideal? Let's go back to the paragraph where Aram was mentioned. The ethical idea of Aram, virtue, recurrent in Sangam poetry, did not merely denote personal morality but as a socio-political equilibrium. Basically, Aram is not about your own morality, but it is about the socio-political, the society and the politics, how they are coexisting and what equilibrium, what balance is being made between them. it served to justify social inequality. Is that so? That it was justifying social? No, it is just saying that you have to coexist. It represented moral superiority over the other cultures. Again, it is talking about socio-political equilibrium and not any kind of superiority. It reflected a system sustained by reciprocity and restraint. It reflected a system. अब वो system कैसे sustained हो रहा है, we cannot say, but it is reflecting a system, that there is a sort of equilibrium. It was purely religious notion with no social meaning. In the paragraph itself, it is saying it's a socio-political equilibrium. So obviously, it does have a social meaning. This option is again wrong. So the best option here is option number C, and that will be your answer. Now coming to the last question. The author's criticism of Sangam literature lies mainly in its author is criticizing Sangam literature, and why is he doing so? We'll find out. Absence of political themes. Was there an absence of political themes? No. It is not said, anything is not said about political themes in Sangam literature, right? It is only being criticized for the other things. Let's see. Unquestioned acceptance of hierarchical structures. The paragraph does talk about hierarchical structures, but let's see if we find a better option. Overemphasis on warfare and economy. No, it is not overemphasizing. In fact, it was saying that it has mentioned, but at the same time, it has mentioned how multicolored society was. Lack of artistic sophistication. No, this has been, see, Sangam is a sophistication lay. That means it was artistically sophisticated. So obviously this option is wrong. Lastly, we are left with option number B, and this is the best answer for this question. Alright. So yeah, dear students, this was our session on reading comprehension. And not only I introduced difficult or abstract paragraphs to you, I also introduced multiple options that might get confusing for you through this session. I hope it has helped you, and your questions are most welcome. And I'm hoping to see you in the next session very soon. Thank you.